Hi, everyone. Hi, finally, today is Thursday. And as you know, we have our weekly live interviews. And if you are joining me and my guest live, please hashtag live in the comment, or if it's the replay, hashtag replay. And do also mention where you're coming from. I, for one, am coming from Mexico, and my guest is in Canada. And also, please allow StreamYard to use your name if you wish to make a comment, or even if you want to react, or if you want to react, just send us lots of loves. We love hearts. So welcome to Thursday afternoon interview with Lucy. My awesome guest this week is Cameron Arsenault, and Cameron's one of these guys that just wants to change the world, and I have every faith in him that he's absolutely going to do that. So let me tell you what we have in common when we first met. I saw a video of Cameron with Dean Graziosi. And Dean Graziosi is one of the founders of the KBB program, which I am a part of, and so is Cameron. And Dean was featuring Cameron as a KBB member who took the program and became a success immediately. So I was very, very, very kind of, I was in awe, I think. And then I was fortunate after that to see Cameron, or to participate in a workshop with Cameron about, I think the title was How Not to Be Salesy, because we're all afraid of sales, especially women, I think, so how not to be salesy. So I love that, and I learned so much. So we do belong to the KBB family. By the way, the KBB stands for Knowledge Business Blueprint. And it's a program, really, it's a movement that really can change your life, as it did for me, and it certainly did for Cameron. The other thing that we have in common is that we are both Canucks. Now, Canucks is, I think I've always used it. It's a name that we use if you're from Canada, and we're both from the East Coast. I'm from Quebec. He's from PEI, Prince Edward Island. And then the other thing that we have in common is that we're dedicated to help people launch, scale their business, and we really do want ourselves and our clients to impact the world as they do. So without any further ado, let me introduce to you Cameron Arsenault. Cameron, hi. Cameron, right. Say hi to my guest.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here and happy to share hopefully some good little nuggets to help you guys on your guys' journey. So excited to be here. Lucy, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I know how busy you are. Now, you founded Bold Entrepreneurship in 2019, and you're also partners with mission-driven entrepreneurs now and around the world. And I know that people who have a mission. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that is important for you?
Yeah, I think the best way to look at it is kind of my background comes from I was in sales, right? So I was in direct sales, and I was helping raise funds for various charities and nonprofits. Now, I'd been involved in entrepreneurship beforehand, and tried and failed at it a couple times, and then before I got into learning the skill of sales and marketing and how to effectively communicate with people, essentially. And one of the big things that I remember kind of thinking about as I was going through that process, because I wasn't that great at marketing or sales before, and then just all of a sudden was really good at it, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And one of the things I realized was because that the organizations that we were working with had some really amazing stories, right? In terms of the impact they can make on the community or on the world, depending on what organization we were working with. And then I just kind of realized that, people really love hearing a great story and knowing how it's going to change and impact, whether it's their life or other people's lives. And so I really realized the power of a story and the power of having that as part of your business. So I'm like, hey, why don't we see if we can really merge these two kind of worlds together, this, charity or this and the business side, and really have both of those things together. So that's really kind of where that whole mission part comes in. And hello to everyone that's tuning in there. That's awesome.
Thank
So
you.
that's really where I see that mission coming in, is right. It's just seeing these people, or just seeing how much of an effect a really great story can have. And so trying to really be able to merge that into your business, because I think it's a really powerful tool. If we learn to kind of really, if we learn to use that effectively. So that's kind of where that mission driven part comes in.
If I, I've had a few conversations with you. You talked about being really bad at sales, and you tried everything. You tried a blog. You tried running ads on Facebook, hiring a VA, and honestly, how do you turn something like that around? I mean, all of a sudden I see you featured by by Dean Graziosi, who is the
Yeah.
top guy in KBB. I mean, how does that happen? I
Yeah.
want to know the secret sauce.
Well, it'd be great if it was, magic and quick, like it seems to be. It definitely was not an overnight transformation, but I know one of the biggest things, and one of the biggest things that I found really helped make that shift, and it essentially kind of made it go quicker,
Mm-hmm.
was this kind of commitment to putting myself maybe in positions, or in ways that would be uncomfortable, but I knew that would benefit me going forward. So, for example, going into sales, scared the crap out of me when I first went in. But that's the reason why I did it, is because I knew that there was these skills and these things that I needed to know. And if I would just get outside of that comfort zone and to commit to learning those things, then that's what's going to help me, move forward and have success. And so that's one of the big things, is just committing to improving. And the other thing as well that I found, even not that long ago, I personally struggled a lot with asking for help. Right, I've never been one to ask for help. I never asked my parents for very much. Like, I was just never that person. I don't know why. That's just the way I was wired, I guess. But I'm trying to kind of work on that, because one of the biggest things that I realized is that, yeah, you can go and try to figure it out yourself, like, and you can probably get there, but it's going to take a really long time. And I don't know about, yourself or any of the people that are watching, but, one of the things is, I want to have success quicker, right? I'm
Exactly.
sure we all want to be successful and all want to get there. And one of the things I realized is that my tendency to not go out and ask for help and to try to figure it all out myself was really one of the big things that was setting me back. So whenever I started to reach out, and KBB was was one of the first big things I did with that, right? I hired a coach, I got KBB, and just recently got a much bigger program as well. But I just realized that if there's something that I don't know, or if there's a result that I want that I'm not getting, then the easiest, quickest way to do that is to reach out for help, and right, and get experience, right? Learn from other people's mistakes, so that you can actually shortcut that experience and move forward. Obviously, it still takes a lot of work. It's still going to take you to being committed to do it. But by seeking out help where you really need it, I think that's one of the things that I think really helped me make that transition from really struggling to now, doing all right.
So who was that person that you? I mean, you were. It sounds, sounds like you were stuck a little bit. Who was that person? Who was that first person you kind of reached out to?
Yeah.
I mean,
So yeah, and
go
I
ahead.
think I mentioned this to you a little bit on our call. It's like, for me, it was really, really clear, because one of the things is, like, it's one thing to say that you want to make a change, and one thing to say that and to think it, but to really commit to it is a really big step. And you can feel that you're okay. I'm actually going to commit, and this is going to be what's going to happen. Because, again, I mentioned to me, Lucy, like, for me, I remember it was March 9th, 2019, and I was sitting, in the kitchen, having breakfast, nice sunny Saturday morning, and I just kind of had enough of, not having success, and had enough of, working 6, 7 days a week, 12-hour days in a job that I really didn't like. And I decided, I was like, you know what, like things are going to change. Like I'm going to change. And literally, it's funny because when you make a kind of commitment like that, then things start to kind of line up, right? Where you start to find that mentor, you find that person that can help you get to that next level. Because literally that day, I made, like that morning, I made that decision. I went out, and a couple hours later, while I was at work, I started talking to this guy. His name was Chris, and he was a business coach. And so I just, for whatever reason, I just felt like, cause I didn't know at the time, he was just some stranger that I had just met. And I was actually selling to, and if Chris ever sees this, I did sell him on something. So I was really pumped about that. But I just really felt compelled to kind of, just reach out. And I was just asking, like, what is it that you do? I don't know why I asked him that. But I just felt compelled to ask him for some reason. And he said, hey, I'm, as a business coach, and this is what he does. And I was just like, what are the odds? I literally just decided earlier this morning that that's kind of the path I was going to go. So I started talking with him, and he ended up becoming my coach for the next, I worked with him for about 6 to 8 months to kind of help me through that transition.
I see. So you decided then to be a coach? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, so I decided that I wanted to get into, coaching or consulting or something along in that space. So again, at that moment, I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew that that was the direction that I wanted to go. That I was committing to going there. And I was going to figure out people that could help me along the way. So I had no idea exactly what that was going to evolve into. All I knew is that I didn't like where I was right now. I wanted to get to this place somewhere in the distance, and I'm going to start making steps and commit to making that happen.
Okay, so this March, it was March 9th. You decide that you've had enough. You go out on a sales call. You find this guy who's a coach, and then then the world opens up to you. How do you go from there to Dean Graziosi, who is the co-owner of KBB?
Mastermind, yeah. So from there, I was looking at a different program actually completely than KBB. At the time, it was one by Sam Ovens, Consulting Accelerator, something along that line. Anyway, but I'd followed Dean for a little while. I read his book just a couple months previous. That was probably one of the reasons actually where my mindset did shift, and I started to want to pursue something different. Part of that came from reading Dean's book, Millionaire Success Habits. And then to where it came to that tipping point in March. And then, so after March, I was looking at buying this other program. I started working with Chris, and all of a sudden they started marketing KBB, and I hadn't bought the other course yet. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll hold off and I'll wait and I'll see what this KBB thing is all about. And then decided to pull the trigger and to get KBB, right? Again, invest in myself and invest in people that can help me take those next steps. And then from there, I went and put together my first event. So for me, I did a virtual summit. I learned a ton. I got to interact with a ton of cool people who are first starting out. I probably wouldn't recommend that as being your very first event. But again, you live, you learn. But it was a great experience. I learned a ton, and shared my kind of story of putting that together with the KBB community, and got selected as one of the people to showcase, I guess, as part of the KBB program. So I got to fly out, meet Dean, do the interview, all that fun stuff.
That's a biggie. I mean, nobody gets invited to Dean Graziosi's. I mean, I know several people who were able to share the stage at the summit, World Summit. Where were you in your business when the World Summit 2020 came on? Were you still working your master classes, or?
World Summit 2020, so just this past October. So after I came back from Dean's, which was December 2019. So that's when I went. I launched my first program. I put a program together, a 12-week program, and started doing a bunch of, kind of throughout the year. I did various, master classes and, smaller workshops and challenges, and really just trying to find, just find, clarify, I guess, that direction, right? So
Right.
take a ton of action, just trying to figure out, where, that niche is, or where exactly I feel that I fit in and can provide the most
Mhm.
value to people.
Right.
So it was a really, it was a big year of kind of discovery and taking action while I was doing it. And when the time that the World Summit came around, I was just about to launch my second program, Organic Facebook Mastery. So that's just showing people the ins and outs of how to market on Facebook. And then, so that's when I launched that in a little bit after, I think, the summit, and then relaunched kind of my main program, which is mission driven marketing, or with the personal support, the Impact Accelerator. So yeah, I was just gearing up for a couple big launches right around the time of the World Summit.
Right. I want to go back to something that you said before. You said something about you learned about sales, that it wasn't about sales,
Yeah.
it was about stories. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that? Why stories are so important in sales.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I hear it all the time now. And I personally know I'm working on it myself. So can you, enlighten us?
So I think there's kind of there was two things I would pick out in terms of why I believe that that stories are really, really important to sales. The first one is trust, and then the second one is kind of is people being able to visualize the transformation. So we'll dive into the trust one first. The first one is being able to um, hear someone's story, right? Like if we look at, maybe some kind of big no-name brand, right? It's really hard for people to relate to that, because a brand is, a whole separate kind of entity
Right.
being by itself, and it's really hard for people to relate to that, because there's no story of that brand that you can really relate to your own life or to your story. So by sharing stories that people can relate to, right? So if, sharing a story of my background, or for yourself sharing a story of your background, or something that you've been through, what that does is now people who hear that story, they can kind of relate to that, and there's maybe pieces of your story that they see in their own story, and that's something that
Mhm.
people can relate to. So that's one of the big things, I think, is just being able to kind of build trust, because if someone's similar to you, then they're going to trust you more.
Right.
So that's one thing. Yeah. So is there a question on that one?
No, no, no. I know. I'm listening, and and I'm thinking. Okay, so in terms of stories, I remember Brenda
Mhm.
Bouchard saying,
Yeah.
we all have lots of stories, but
Yeah.
usually there's a scene, a particular scene, and I think you
Hmm.
talked about the scene, uh, March the
Yeah.
9th, you were fed up, and that was the beginning of kind of your story to move on with what you were doing. So
Hmm.
because we all have lots of stories, and all through our presentations, we tell a little bit about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it comes to my mind that, when people buy, they really don't buy the what, they buy the who,
Yeah.
because they get to know who you are. Can you,
Hmm.
can you attest to that? Can you
Yeah.
explain how that worked for you a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that that's a big part of the trust piece, right? Because if people hear your story, right? Because that's only like the difference between, someone that and like, or someone like a Dean Graziosi, right? Or someone else who's some other big influencer. The only difference between the two is that Dean, right, a little bit more, right? Because you know his story, kind of things that he's done. And so just knowing more about someone helps you build trust in that person. Right. But
Right.
if you never share anything like that, then it's going to be hard for people to know much about you, which means it's going to be harder for people to trust. Right. Just
Yeah,
think if you're, meeting some stranger that's walking along the street, like they could be the nicest person ever, but it's still going to take a little bit for you to trust them just because you don't know them yet.
exactly.
And the same kind of is true with your business, right? Where people can hear your story and understand you more and feel like they know you, then they're genuinely going to trust you a little bit more. So that's one of the big things. The other thing as well is, it's just in terms of, especially relevant because anyone, I know most of the audience here is really into like KBB and like coaching and that kind of stuff. And a lot of times the kind of results or the kind of transformation you're trying to help clients through, sometimes it's hard for people to visualize, what it's going to look like, or what steps are going to need to be taken, that kind of stuff. And the best way to get that across is through a story, right? So it may be a story of how you've done it or how someone else has done it, right? One of your previous clients have done it. But by telling a story, it helps people to visualize and to see what that transformation would look like for them, right? So people can use their imagination a little bit and see, okay, like if this is the result that I want, then these are the steps, and that's what it would look like, because you're telling a story of exactly how that happened. Because any kind of decision or change or transformation, right? I think that starts with a story, because that helps you change your mindset, right? Change your view on things, because now you can visualize what that transformation is going to look like. So that's the other reason why I think stories are really, really important. There's like stories and analogies and those kind of things, so that paints a picture for people about what that transformation is going to look like.
Yeah, and interesting. So, where do you find your people? I mean, who's your avatar? I mean, mine is single women over 60, because that's who I relate to, and so they're single, they're over 60, and they have to create extra income for themselves. And I think this program is a wonderful program for them to know where to begin. What is it for you?
Mm-hmm. So that's a great question, and because it's one that I like to cover quite a bit with my students. That's one of the things a lot of people struggle with, like what's my niche, or like who are my people. And while what you mentioned, that part I think is really important as well, right? Knowing, okay, like here's my demographic, right? That's kind of what you described as people that are over 60 and that kind of thing. But one of the things that I like to do, and to just essentially approach that question from a little bit of a different angle, because knowing exactly what who that person is, what their marital status is, how many kids they have, like that part of the equation, I don't think is nearly as important as getting really, really clear on the problem that you solve. Because if you get clear on the problem that you solve, and then we can add in, things like, what the demographic is. So I know for me, looking at it from that lens, the people I can really help is people who really have, this passion to make some kind of impact on the world. And so whatever their business is, a lot of them are coaches now, but it doesn't need to be just coaches. But these people who have this, this mission and vision for a better future, and want to create real change with their business, but don't know how to incorporate that into an actual sustainable, thriving business, in terms of the economics and how you sell and make offers, but being able to do that in a way that really aligns with their values and aligns with their mission. Because that's one of the things I think that's missing in a lot of stuff online, right? There's a lot of people who tell you, here's how you can go make tens of thousands of dollars and do all this thing, and that's great. And I'm sure all that stuff works. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's hard for a lot of people who have that, whose single goal isn't just making more income, but there's also this incorporated impact piece, or this mission that people have. And a lot of people struggle to kind of put those two things together. So how I see myself helping is help people kind of have that balance between, here's how you create an income and a sustainable business that's actually support you and make lots of money, but here's how we can incorporate that with the mission and the vision that you have to actually make a great impact on the world. So I help people kind of balance those two and really create a movement around that, right? So that people want to want to be part of what you're doing, because they see the positive impact and they see what you're doing to change the world.
Yeah, it's interesting you use the word movement, because we were, I was thinking in terms of people who get stuck. I remember hearing from Tony Robbins saying, people don't really get stuck. What they do is lack momentum. Do you agree with that? I mean, that came out of his mouth.
Yeah, I mean, Tony's a smart guy. He knows what he's talking about. I would kind of agree. I guess some people do get stuck because the momentum is right. I do agree that you don't really feel like you're making forward progress.
A plateau. You get to a plateau. you
Yeah,
know?
you get to a point where I think, I think you still kind of can be a little bit stuck, or you're just not moving forward very, very fast. So you're essentially not moving forward. But with the momentum piece, right, is like you start to move forward, and then you pick up speed, and you can kind of keep going, and it helps you move forward at a rate that feels like you're actually making progress. So if you look at it through that lens, I guess, where you never, unless you quit, you never stop moving forward. So maybe that's kind of what he was referring to. It's like, unless you quit, you never stop moving forward. It's
Right.
just, if you don't know what you're doing and you're going all over the place, you're not moving forward at a rate that feels like you're actually moving forward.
Right. And so you have a new program, do you not? It's called, is it
So
Group
it's
Accelerator or something? I'm sorry.
yeah. So it's that's all right.
Escapes me.
Yeah. So it's called the Impact Accelerator. So
Impact.
essentially, again, the whole idea is to, I want to work with people who want to make an awesome impact on the world, right? Like, if people are here just to, trade Bitcoin or make a bunch of money that way, like, it's not interest to me.
Okay.
So the big thing for me is just really being able to kind of help people who want to have that vision, want to really create a movement, and create an impact on the world. But again, at the same time, I'm not saying to not make money. Like, that's important too, and how to balance those two things, right? Where you really um, feel aligned with what you're doing, right? You have this mission you're going to accomplish and make a positive impact, but you're also building a thriving business and making a ton of money at the same time. So that's why it's called the Impact Accelerator, right? So it's trying to help you, right, get more momentum and accelerate and move forward quickly, in order to be able to build your own movement.
Okay, so is that a course that somebody takes, or is that like a master class that they take? And how long is that?
Hmm.
Does that last? And
Yeah.
are there?
So
I'm going to ask the ugly word. Are there any guarantees? What are the warranties that I
yeah.
can?
So a couple things. So we're looking at, first of all, we'll look at kind of what the format is now. Um, in terms of like courses and stuff, so there is the course and back end and all recorded stuff, and that's all great. So you have that, but one of the biggest things I find, and again, the thing that I try to make sure is that people that come into the program have everything that they need to actually sustain and to move forward and to make some progress. And
Okay.
while courses are great, a lot of times, the successes that you see in, just standalone courses are either from people who have invested in the next level and got personal support, or who already had a thriving business, already knew all the fundamentals. So this was just kind of an add-on for them, right? It wasn't like they just built it up out of the blue. It's like they were already going, and that course just helped them take the next step because they just got, different strategies. But one of the things I find is a lot of people is that, they'll get the course and think that that's going to be, the end all be all. And I really think for most people, especially if you're first just starting, that you really need to have that kind of personal support in order to be able to kind of help you through those steps, because inevitably you're going to get stuck, right? And if it's just a course, it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know, right? If you don't know what's going wrong, it's going to be hard to fix it. So that's why having personal support is a big part of the program as well. So whether that's one-on-one or group coaching, or just access at any time, like via Messenger, we want to make sure that people have support and they have that that more personal touch, so that they can get over any of those hurdles that that come their way. Excuse me. And then the other thing as well is, in terms of the support, it's also just having kind of a clear, roadmap and guidelines. So we give people, it's meant to be an 8-week program, right? So you have, the 8 weeks to go through, and we have laid out step by step and an entire, broken down checklist, so that you don't feel kind of overwhelmed. You don't feel like, I don't know what to do next. There's everything broken down. And that's a big part, because a lot of people feel really overwhelmed, and they've taken programs where there's just 5 million things in there, and it's hard to figure out, okay, which of the things do I actually need to do and that will actually be relevant to my business. So we break that down as well. Now, the last two questions you mentioned in terms of the length and the guarantee. So with the length, again, it's meant to be 8 weeks. But the one thing that I really want to do, that I think that sets this apart from pretty much any other program that I've seen out there, is It's not based on the length, it's based on results.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, whenever you're getting into a coaching program or any kind of program, what you're paying for is you're paying for trying to get this result, right? Whether that's to grow your business, whether that's to improve your relationship or improve your health, whatever it is, right? Essentially, that's all people really care about at the end of the day. Is they don't really care about what those steps are. It's just, okay, this is the result that I want. Is this going to help me get to that result? So what we did is we based this program around people's results. So the program right now, how it's based is there's a certain benchmark, and we'll work with you until you hit that benchmark. So there's it's not a certain cutoff of time. It's just, okay, we're going to work with you until we hit that benchmark. And so if that's going to take some people longer, it's going to take some people shorter. It just really depends on the person, right? Because if you come into something, right, everyone has different skill levels. So someone has, a higher skill level, it'll be quicker. Someone takes a little bit longer because they're, a bit earlier in their journey, then it'll take a bit longer. But really, we're looking to make sure that people get results and that they can move forward. Because once you understand that, enough to hit that first benchmark, for you to go to that next stage, and the next stage is a lot easier. Kind of like what
Right.
Tony said with momentum.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So once you start to get that momentum, it becomes a lot easier to go to the next levels. So we want to make sure people have all the support they need, and everything they need to, hit those benchmarks.
Right. Okay, great. And are there any guarantees at the end? I mean, do you get your money back if you don't reach? I mean, a lot of programs don't offer that, but there are some, there are some programs. I just was reading the other day by actually Brian Cho, who was just mentioned by Dean that. And he said to me, "This is an ridiculous thing that I'm offering. I'm offering unlimited coaching." So I mean, how can somebody do that? I mean, I'm thinking in terms of myself, where I'm kind of a slower learner because I'm not very techy. And I'm always having to know what the next step is. That's really important for me. Don't just throw a program at me. Tell me what my next step. I can do once, so that's who I am. So, do you offer a guarantee, warranty, or whatever you call it?
So I actually have two guarantees on the program. The first is a 30-day money back guarantee. So pretty standard. You can try out the entire program, right? All the coaching, everything. If for whatever reason it doesn't seem like it's a good fit, then have your money back. No worries. Just let me know. No questions asked. The other guarantee is that they're going to help you is to hit that benchmark again. So at the time that we're recording this right now, the guarantee is to make your first 5K. Now, how that works is obviously I can't guarantee you're going to make that, because it still requires effort and commitment on your part, right? I can't just give you 5K.
Absolutely.
But what I can do is I can guarantee you that I'll be there every step of the way as you get to that benchmark. Again, if people take longer, it takes longer. If it's shorter, it's shorter. We have it set up in a way where there's what's it called? There's commitment on both sides, right? Again, I'll commit to stay with you and to hit that, but you need to also commit and to make sure you're actually taking the work and doing the actions and doing those things. Because again, I'm confident in the program and how it can help you guys. But you guys still need to put in the work, right? I can't do the work for you. You need to be able to put in the work. So you need action takers, that's what. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think most programs are missing, right? Is there's the accountability for most programs falls solely on your shoulders, right? So you need to do everything, and if you don't get the result, it's like, okay, it wasn't our fault. The problem the program works. It's just you didn't take action, right? So there's no accountability on the coach, or no accountability on the person who's the program it is. And I'm really trying to reverse that, where it's like, okay, you still need to be accountable, right? There's no getting around that. It's your business. You need to be accountable and put in the work. But if you're willing to do that, I'm willing to be accountable to help you get to those results.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I've been in so many situations where, the opposite is true. Well, Cameron, I know that you have, I'm so happy for you to be here, and thank you, because I know how busy you are.
Yeah.
I think you have a little surprise for my guests. Do you not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I think there's a couple things. One is, if anyone wants to reach out to me, I do have the client attraction guide, which is essentially what that is just a collection of all the posts that I have that have done really, really well. Some of them, one of them in particular has gotten over 1,000 leads, just one of the
Wow.
places that I posted it. So it's just a guide that'll kind of walk you through how to create those and give you some examples and templates, stuff like that. So if anyone wants that, feel free to reach out to me, and I can send you an email and it'll have that as well. I think the other thing that we chat about, if anyone wants to learn more about that program and kind of what that looks like, I know right now we have at the current place that we're at with the guarantee and everything, there's only 6 more places, 6 more spots available for that. And then the price is probably going to be doubling. So there's 6 more places at that. If anyone wants to learn a little bit more about that, feel free to reach out. And again, we can send you that that template for the client attraction guide for free. You guys can have that. If you guys want to explore what would look like to work together inside the Impact Accelerator, then again, feel free to reach out, and then we can chat about that and see if you want to have one of those 6 places.
So when you talk about reaching out now, down the always says a tickler, go to behold dot link.
So be bold. So bold entrepreneurship, obviously that's the business. So be bold.link /let's chat. Or if you just look me up on Facebook, it's just Cameron Arsenault, or the Cam Arsenault.
And your name is right there, CAMERON, and the last name is French, so ARSENAULT.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or worst comes to worst, if anyone's watching this, they probably know Lucy. You can just reach out to Lucy, and she'll be able to put us in touch.
And I'll make sure that they get in touch with you. Well, I just want to thank you so much, Cameron, for your time and the work that you're doing. I really do admire the work that you do, and I'll be looking out for that guide myself, because I know what goodies you put out. Okay, so thank you so much, and then also for my listeners, thank you for joining us today. We've enjoyed both having you, and please. You know that next Thursday's another interview. If you're interested in being interviewed, contact me. If you have a wonderful story, we love to tell stories, don't we, Cameron? We love stories.
Absolutely.
So we'll say goodbye.
Stories are the best.
Absolutely. We'll say goodbye to Cameron and to my listeners. We'll see you soon.
All right. See you later, everyone.